Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Ethereum and its USD valuation as well as its Bitcoin valuation. Obviously, the world is waiting for Ethereum to make a move, and in this show, we're going to talk about if it does start making a move, where might we see it go? If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Also, check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So Ethereum right now is trading at around $1,247. And one of the interesting things is, as we said, the world is waiting for it to, so to speak, make a move. Of course, we know that if you zoom out and look at how far Ethereum has come in such a very short time, it makes us, it makes us fully aware of why everyone is getting anxious, because we've somewhat been spoiled over the last several months. And this parabolic move would obviously be convenient for everyone if it were to continue. Now, if we were to zoom in on shorter time frames, we can see that it has been trending up over the last week. It's simple enough, right? It has been more or less trending up over the last week. And from here, I don't really think that drawing lines on charts is that useful, because we've often seen price charts that do this type of thing that ultimately just, at some point break back down. But if we were to just frivolously draw a few lines, we can see that it seems like it might be coming to a point of reckoning sooner rather than later. Now, one of the things we note is that, well, we've always said, remember the end of December. The thesis was that Ethereum, if history is any indication, should outperform Bitcoin in Q1 following a Q4 bleed. We were here every step of the way during the Q4 bleed, and we are wanting to usher in a paradigm shift of Ether Bitcoin in Q1. So that's more or less what we are talking about here, right? That's what we're talking about. So will we make it to a new paradigm shift in the valuation of Ether Bitcoin in Q1? Well, one of the things we note is that, from the bottom, which we talked about, and we prepared for this December capitulation for months, but from the bottom, Ether is already up a modest 50 to 51% against Bitcoin. And that's significant. Obviously, it's important that Ether is up in USD since January, but if it can't outperform Bitcoin any step of the way, then it doesn't justify holding it. So the justification for holding it, of course, is that, at some stages, it is outperforming Bitcoin. And we can see that over the last few weeks, it has in fact been outperforming Bitcoin. Now, one of the things we also like to look at is the extension from the 20-week moving average. So let's go ahead and put that on here. First, we'll just go ahead and put on our regression rainbow so that we can see, or our regression band, so that we can see where that is. And here, what we're going to do is we're also going to put on the log of the price divided by the 20-week SMA. And we've looked at this a number of times in the past to get ideas of level of overvaluation we could theoretically reach if history is any indication. Now, one thing we've discussed, and we talked about reaching the same level of overvaluation that we reached in 2019. We did that exactly in July of 2020. So we were able to reach the same level of overextension from the 20-week moving average that we reached in May of 2019. We reached that in August of 2020. Now, you have to remember that this indicator here, again, is the natural log of the price of Ethereum over the 20-week moving average. So when these are the same, when the price and the 20-week are the same, then you get the log of 1, which we know is 0. So if it's 0, then we're essentially holding it as support, supposedly maybe in a bull market. So it would look something like that. Now for Bitcoin, we know that it has held as support many times during the bull market. And for Ethereum, it has done so a few times as well, right? Here's a notable example. After a major move in January of 2016, we came down, held the 20-week moving average as support before ultimately flying higher. However, the extension from the 20-week was somewhat degraded from this point to this point, which was somewhat degraded from this point to this point. Now, The obvious next place to look in terms of overextension from the 20-week moving average would be the next major peak from 2018. So if we draw a line there, we can see where we would need to go in order for us to be overvalued by the same amount as measured from the 20-week moving average. Well, the 20-week moving average of Ether right now is in fact at $613.85. So let's just say $614. We've said before that this value will continue to increase as long as the price keeps staying this elevated. Okay, the 20-week moving average is a 50% drop from where we currently is. Then every week that goes by where Ethereum is not skyrocketing, the 20-week moving average is slowly climbing to where the price is, but it still has a long way to go. For instance, even though the price hasn't changed a whole lot over the last week, the extension from the 20-week has gone down, which is a good thing if you believe in the idea that the 20-week moving average should act as some level of support in a bull market. We want the 20-week moving average to be elevated. Of course, we reserve the right to break it at any time we want to, but it's certainly something we want to see hold. Now, because it's come back down, it's because the 20-week moving average has gone up. And so we're referencing always the 20-week moving average. So for us to reach the same level of overextension that we reached in January of 2018 from the 20-week moving average, we would need to go up to a valuation of around 1.05. Now, in order to understand what that means, we need to pull up a calculator really quick. So we're going to pull up Wolfram Alpha. So if the log of the price, the natural log of the price is X, divided by the 20-week, and remember, the 20-week moving average is now 614, divided by 614 equals the peak here in 2018. This would be the obvious level of overextension from the last cycle. That would be a theoretical target. It would be around 1.05. So in order for that to equal 1.05, what does the price need to be if it happened tomorrow? Well, in order to get to that level, it would correspond to an Ether valuation against USD of $1,754, almost $1,755. However, we also need to remind ourselves that the 20-week moving average is not constant. And because it's changing every single week, in a couple weeks, it could be closer to, say, $650. Therefore, to reach the same level of overextension from the 20-week, if the 20-week moving average is at 650 at the time, then it could correspond to closer to an $1,850 or $1,857 Ether. So it ultimately depends on how quickly we get there and if we're able to reach the same level of extension from the 20-week moving average. That's ultimately what it will boil down to. Now, clearly, the first target in everyone's mind is $1,400. And if you're new here, you might wonder, well, why $1,400? Well, remember, the peak in 2018 was around 1420 or so. Now, this exchange, for some reason, has it going up much higher. If you were around back then, we know it was closer to around 1430 or so. So I wouldn't really count that week. So it was around this level. That would be the first obvious target, would be to get to a $1,430 Ethereum, give or take a few bucks, right? What's a few bucks among friends? It obviously depends on exactly what exchange you're using to identify where the prior top was. So the first scenario, the first target, obviously, would be a modest $1,400 Ethereum. The second target would be to actually get above the prior all-time high, which is closer to around 1430, give or take. If Ethereum can get past that level, then I would say we would want to be eyeballing, in fact, the 50-month moving average of Ether Bitcoin. And what is that? Well, let's overlay our moving average. So this one, the first one we're going to put on is the 50-month, and we're going to switch over to the monthly time frame so we can easily identify it. The 50-month was the level that the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation peaked at in the summer. And today, the Ether Bitcoin valuation at the 50-month is in fact 0.041597. So let's round that up to 0.0416. So if the valuation of Ether Bitcoin were to reach 0.0416, and the price of Bitcoin were to remain invariant, which it won't, it would correspond to a $36,700 Bitcoin. So $36,720 Bitcoin would correspond to a price of $1,527. So if the price of Bitcoin were to remain constant, which it won't, and Ether went up to the prior top in the summer, the next target after, say, 1430 would probably be the 50-month moving average, because this is exactly where we held resistance in September. Now, obviously, with that in mind, we know we will not necessarily reach those levels. Of course, it could retrace at any time, and a lot of that will depend on what Bitcoin does. So that would be obviously the next area to look at once we get past the prior all-time high. If we're able to get past the 50-month moving average in terms of the Ether Bitcoin valuation, then we might go back and say, look at, well, what's the extension from the 20-week? Are we approaching the same level that we did in 2018, which was actually the most modest extension from the 20-week out of the three major peaks of Ether USD during the last market cycle? So if that were to happen, remember that would correspond closer to, I think, what, a $1,700, $1,800 Ethereum, somewhere in that ballpark. Let's just put it on here again. So the log of the price divided by the 20-week equals 1.05 to reach the same level of overextension. It would correspond to a $1,754 Ethereum. But remember, it depends on where the 20-week moving average is at the time. And the 20-week moving average right now is monotonically increasing because the price is continuing to stay elevated. So hopefully this has been informative. Remember, if you guys like the content, subscribe to the channel. Let's go for 100,000 subscribers, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Turn on your notifications. We also have the premium list if you want a little bit more insight into navigating the cryptocurrency markets. We have a sale for the lifetime membership right now that'll last another couple weeks until the end of January. So if you want to check that out, check out the description below. If the lifetime subscription is not your thing, we also have a monthly subscription, which you can find in the description below, and you can also find at intothecryptoverse.com. You get access to weekly reports, weekly premium videos, the trading view indicators, the risk dashboard, the Telegram alerts channel, the Telegram chat room. We're starting to do premium list live streams. You get a lot of value. Make sure you check it out, intothecryptoverse.com, or the lifetime membership, which will be going up in approximately 2 weeks. So that'll wrap it up for the video. We've discussed a lot of other things on Ethereum in other videos, and we'll do updates on that if the price of Ethereum can start moving and get us closer to, say, $1,400. Make sure you guys subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Bye.